not able to understand the drawing. The whole point of the drawing was that you had to think about it because it is drawn like crap. Right? So I used to just hand this page out without that little bit added there. And then every kid was like, I can't do it. And I was like, why? Because it doesn't make any sense. How can this be 8 if that's only 1? And I was like, kid, if I were to draw a picture of our school, would it be full-sized? No. So if our school has this big thing in the front filled with glass, is it really that big? No. So drawings aren't real life, are they? No. Okay, do the question. I can't. All right. So I changed it, and I added this part, so you actually had to think about it. And then some kid said, oh, I see, it's not to scale. So it's all right that this is 1 and this is 8, which means to there is 1, and this little bit here is how long? 7. So what the drawing really should look like is this. 1, 15, 1, 7. Right? Now, of course, this shape right here repeats to the back, doesn't it? Which makes this a prism, yes? And every single prism's volume is what? Area of the base times the height. The base is what? The shape that repeats. The height is what? The direction that the shape repeats. So if I know that green area and I multiply it by the height or the direction it repeats, 6, do I get the volume of that swimming pool? Of course I do. But it was difficult to work with that, so you redraw it. This is 15 by 1, which is 15. This is 7 by 15, base times height, divided by 2, which is 7 times 15 is 105, divided by 2 is 52.5. So this whole area is 67.5, which then multiplies by height, 6, which gets me the grand spanking total, thank you, my good man, of 405 meters cubed. Of course, we are not filling the pool full. We are filling it 85% full. So we, of course, multiply that by 0.85 to get 344.25 meters cubed. That's the first step. Now, you can fill 1.8 meters cubed per hour. So I divide that by 1.8 and I get 191.25 hours. Which, if you really wanted the A++, you would have said 191 hours, 15 minutes. If you really wanted me to go home and be like, I got the best students in the world. Any questions? No. As soon as you see it, it makes perfect sense, yes? Because the area of the base times the height. How many times did I say out loud, thousands of times in my very quiet, demure voice that Ken doesn't hear very well, that base doesn't mean bottom? How many times did I say height is the direction that the base shape repeats? A lot. Is this that exact situation? Yes, indeed it is. Okay? Priya? Certainly. I did. This, 115 to get 15 meters squared. Then I did 7 by 15 divided by 2, which is 52.5, to get 67.5. That is the area of the base. I then multiplied the area of the base, by the height, which is the direction it repeats, which was 6, to get 405. Once I have 405, I'm only filling it 85% full, so I multiply by 0.85 to get my answer. Then to find the rate, I had to divide. Now, this is a conversion that isn't on your sheet, but you all know how to do conversions. 1 liter of water equals 1,000 centimeters cubed, yes? Excuse me. I have my pool in meters cubed, don't I? So, I'm going to just slide this off to the side. I have 344.25 meters cubed, yes? But I do not want meters cubed. What do I want? Centimeters cubed. Centimeters cubed over meters cubed. Now I know that 100 cm equals 1 meter, yes? But I do not want cm or m, I want it cubed. So when I cube that one, what must I do to the other part of the fraction? Cube it. 100 cubed is 1 million. How many decimal places must I move for 1 million? 6, which takes me to 344,250. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is how many centimeters cubed I have. Yes? But 1,000 centimeters cubed makes a liter. So I divide that by 1,000, cancel the zeros, and it is 344,250 liters. Again, all the math you need to do is the same as the very first question we ever did when we converted anything, right? What did I ask you to bring to the party? This knowledge. That if you change one part of a fraction, you have to do the same thing to the other part of a fraction. When did you learn equivalent fractions? Long time before me, right? Right. Hockey, fill in the net. Everybody said, oh, I'm filling the net. It must be volume. That's looking at the net from the top down. Does everyone agree? What shape is a puck? Puck's a circle. What is right there? Empty space. The pucks cannot fill all the space involved. So it is not volume. It is this. From the front of the net. The front of the net is 183 centimeters wide. Yes? The pucks are 7.2 centimeters wide. 7.62. Divide by 7.62, and I get, if I am not mistaken, 17 point something. Which means I can fit 17 pucks across the bottom. Yes? From the top down, the net is 1 meter deep, which is 100 centimeters. Yes? How many pucks fit back here? Divided by 7.62, which is something like 13 pucks. So now I know I have 17 pucks across the bottom and 13 pucks back, which gives me what? 17 times 13, which is my base area, correct? So this is 130 and 70. What is it? You got it?
I think 13. Sorry, the 17 is
Okay, great. 24 times 3. I got 72 pucks that fit on the ice, yes? And then from the side, my net is 122 meters, and the puck is 2.54 tall. There's your 13. No, it doesn't matter. You're stacking the pucks. You get a prism of pucks. Pucks. 18th puck. Yeah? Everybody understand? You must think before you start running into these questions. Next question. Company produces 100,000 cans of tomato soup per day. Calculate the amount of paper needed for the labels in a day's work. What? Oh, right, because that turned off too. Where does the label on a soup can go? Only here. Is it surface area or volume? Surface area. Surface area of a cylinder is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. That's a cylinder. This is not a cylinder. This is a can. The only part of this we need is what? The 2 pi r h. And how many of them are there? 100,000. So I do 2 pi r h. 2 pi times 4.25 times 12 to get 9 times 12 to get 108 pi times 100,000. Oh yes, because that's 8.5. I'm sorry, it is 102 pi. And then you add 5 zeros, so it is 102, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is 10,200,000 centimeters squared. Pi. You can't forget pi. Okay. Any questions? What makes this a math question? The fact that you had to remember not to include 2 pi r squared. That shows me you're paying attention and not just memorizing formulas. Now, next question was difficult. How much of the classroom walls could you cover? Well, it does say estimate. Very first thing we did in this class was use reference, yes? A step was about 1 meter, right? So if I walk that wall and that wall, I get 2 measurements, don't I? That are estimates for meters, yeah? It's about, if I'm not mistaken, I seem to remember doing this, it's something like 22 and 18 steps. But I can't remember. It doesn't matter. Right? Everybody's with me, yeah? I would walk it. Yes? Yes? Okay, yeah, because it's an estimate, right? So, Priya assumed the room was a square and went 20 by 20. Perfectly fine, don't care, right? Now, if you really wanted to get technical, well, I got to subtract out for the windows because they're not wall, right? Oh, and our room has this crazy triangle thing at the top. Yeah, darn, I don't know. I don't care. Because what is important in this sentence to me? That. Explain what you did. So, if you said, well, it looks to me like the wall is about as tall as the room is wide over there. So this wall would be 20 by 20, right? That wall, you're going to say it's double? Fine. That wall is 20 by 40, right? Then these triangle walls would be 20 by 20 to cover the bottom, and then 20 by 20 divided by 2 to cover the triangles, right? The point is, you gave a decent answer. Now, they had to be a decent estimate. You would not say this room was 3 meters wide, because that is way too small. Okay? That's the whole point. Everybody good? Now, once you get a number here, will there be any pi involved? No, of course not, because there is no circles. So, can you leave the pi up there? No, you got to get me a real-life answer up there, and then divide it by your real-life answer down here. And that will tell you how much of the walls you could cover. But you measured the walls in meters, didn't you? Meters cubed, right? So you would have had to change these walls to what? Centimeters cubed, which means you have to do the conversion 3 times. Remember, it's by 1,000,000. All right. The bike. You can't do that answer because everybody estimated differently. That's why I showed you what to do. You use your estimate, and then you divide whatever you got for the cans divided by whatever you got for the walls without the pi. Okay. Now, I personally think it would be wicked awesome if somebody would hop on one of the X Games half pipes with one of these bad boys. I think that would be badass. That would be extreme. But, all right, so the front wheel is here. What measurement of the front wheel is the distance it will travel? The circumference. This. That's a bad color. This. How do I find the circumference? Circumference equals pi d or 2 pi r. Right? I have this diameter in inches. So circumference equals 52 pi in inches. Now, is that a distance? How far did you ride your bike today? 52 pi. No. This is a real life situation. I need a real life distance. 52 times pi. It's going to be around 160 inches. 163 inches. I want it in feet and inches. So I divide by 12 to get 13 feet, 6 inches. Then I want it in meters and centimeters. Don't care how you do it, but if I were doing it, I would go 13.5 feet times, I want meters, 0.3048 meters. Get that decimal, which would be whatever it is, and figure it out with meters and centimeters. It's going to be around 4. 4 meters, 14 centimeters. Right? Right? How many times must the cyclist turn the large wheel to travel 1 kilometer? What's 1 kilometer? 1,000 meters. How far do I go in one turn of the front wheel? 4.14. So I divide, and I get 206. This one says the large wheel. So it is whatever it is. 240? Small wheel to go 1 kilometer. Well, the small wheel is circumference equals pi d which is 18d. Circumference equals pi d, which is 18 pi, which is 18 times 3 and a bit is going to be around 60? 56.5 inches. I then change that to 2.54 to get centimeters and meters, which is 143.7 centimeters, which is 1.44 meters. So I do 1,000 divided by 1.44 to get that answer, which is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 650. 690, great. Great. What matters to me there? That? Dark pink or light pink? Dark pink is what matters to me. Because you're all going to round things differently. You're all going to, show me work. If I like your thinking, you get full credit. I cannot make that clearer. Is everybody good? Going once. Going twice. Going thrice. Which is a real word, don't laugh at me. All right. Turn the page over to 41. Now listen. 41 and 42 are simply algebra practice. Because to do trigonometry, you must actually be good at algebra. When I say good at algebra, that means you can do this. You all say you can do it easily. I do not believe you. So we will be going over algebra on these 2 pages. It does not take long. We're going to do this. Then I am going to allow you to start on your review. Read the question. Okay. So I am dealing with the surface area of a cone, which is pi r squared plus pi r slant. What do I know? I know the radius and the surface area. So what can I write out, Jordan? I can write 1,200 equals pi times 5 squared plus pi times 5 times s, correct? What is my job? Find s, which means isolate s. It is not as easy to isolate as you think. Can I tidy this up at all? Yes, I can have 1,200 equals 25 pi plus 5 pi s. Right? Everybody cool? Now, here is where you have a choice. If you desire, you can convert these to numbers right now. You would go 25 times pi and get rounded off to 2 decimal places. You would do 5 times pi and round it off to 2 decimal places. Do that, please, so I can show you what will happen. Round that off to 78.54, yes? 78.54 plus 5 pi, 15.71, yes? That's the 5 pi, and then there's an s, right? And then it's super easy. How do I get rid of this 78.54? I subtract 78.54 from both sides, minus 78.54. What does that equal now? Don't do that yet. 15.71 S, correct? How do I get rid of that 15.71? I divide it by 15.71, so what do I need to do over here? Now, you can get S equals all that. When you punch that into your calculator, you have to remember to bracket the numerator. If you want to go step by step, you could have done this, rewritten it, and then divided that answer by 15.71. All of you should have been able to do that in your sleep by this point of your math careers. Right? All right. Now, you will notice I am sliding over to this blank space on the right. I'm going to rewrite the same thing right here. 1200 equals 25 pi plus 5 pi s. When you get later in math, they will not want this answer. You will need to do this. 25 pi is just a number, isn't it? It's 25 times pi. It's a positive number, yes? So I would subtract 25 pi. A great many of you, if I didn't go through this, would do division here. Because you would think that 25 pi is the same as 25x. It's not. Pi has a value. It's 3.14159, blah, 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 blah. So this side is now 1,200 minus 25 pi equals 5 pi s. How do I get rid of 5 times pi? I divide by 5 pi. So now S equals 1,200 minus 25 pi over 5 pi. And that is the better answer for math class. I assume that all of you are planning on attending some level of post-secondary education. And at that post-secondary education, almost every program you can possibly take asks you to take a 100-level math course, which is first-year math. That's what you got to do. Not this. Even though they're the same steps, you have to start understanding what the math is, not just what it looks like. Is everybody cool? Now, the next question is always, which do you want us to do? And as always, I don't care. Just show me that you can do some math. Neither one of those is any more right or wrong than the other one. It's rather selfish, I think, but okay. All right. You know how Barney on Simpsons burps? With the wavy lips. It's super loud. My wife sneezes that way. She'll be sitting there minding your own business. Hey, how's it going, Jesse? Oh, not too bad, Mrs. Myers. How are you? I'm pretty... you! And then she's back to normal. It's the most frightening thing in the world. So, Hazel, I love your sneeze. Keep it up. Because it doesn't scare the feces out of me. Like my wife sneezes do. It doesn't really. I'm a grown-up. All right. So now, prove it. Volume of a cylinder. I know the height. You find me the radius. Now, one way to do this, you don't need to touch your calculator. One way you need to use your calculator and worry about how you're rounding. Which way has more chance of making an error? The calculator one. That's where you're going to make your errors. Because you all are going to be using your texting thumbs. You're going to push a wrong button. You're going to get a completely wrong answer. And you're going to write it down. Why? The calculator said so. Because, of course, this is literally 2 seconds of work if you don't use your calculator. How do I get rid of times 20? Divide by 20. 500 divided by 20 is 25 equals pi r squared. How do I get rid of pi? Divide by pi. Divide by pi. 25 over pi equals r squared. How do you get rid of a squared? Square root. R equals that. And you're done in literally 2 seconds. I could have written that out left-handed, blindfolded, faster than you could have punched it into your calculator. Yet every single one of you is going to reach for your calculator. You never have to give a number. Unless I specifically ask you to give me a number. Everybody Gouda? Sweet. Volume of a sphere, find the radius. 4 pi r cubed over 3. What in there do I know? 7,602 equals 4 pi r cubed over 3. How do I get rid of divide by 3? Times 3. Cancel, cancel. 3 times 7,602 equals 4 pi r cubed. How do I get rid of 4 pi? Divide by 4 pi. Divide by 4 pi. R cubed equals 3 times 7,602 over 4 pi. I get rid of a square by square rooting. How do I get rid of a cube? Cube rooting. R equals the cube root of 3 times 7,602 over 4 pi. If you get to there, am I happy? Yes. We will learn soon, if you do not know, how to punch cube roots into your calculator. I don't care about that because this class is not pre-diploma calculator 10. This class is pre-diploma foundations and pre-calculus 10. This is math. This is using a tool. Right? All you can use a wrench to turn a nut out, can't you? All of you can use a screwdriver to either insert or remove a screw. All of you can use a hammer to hammer in a nail, yes? That's tools, right? If you can use tools, then therefore you must be able to do the job, yes? So since you can use a hammer, you can use a screwdriver, and you can use a wrench, you must be able to build a house. No, of course not. That's horse crap. That's bad logic. The fact that you can do stuff on here doesn't mean you know a thing about math. Is that clear? Good. When you do number 4, you're going to find yourself in a tricky situation. Attempt it. Yep. what happens when you get to there? Why? You don't have a value for t. And you have one unknown and a second unknown. So you cannot solve it. But you can do algebra with it. If I told you t was 8, could you tell me the value of a? Yes, but you can't go any further than that because it's got two unknowns. Does everybody understand? Excellent. By the end of this year, you will know how to solve those, but that's for another day. Okay? Everybody good? All I'm checking for right now is that you can move an equation around. Now you will notice I did a lot less steps this time, didn't I? Because I just moved everything away from A and changed the signs. You're allowed to do that. A lot of you forget that you're allowed to do that. Is it okay to have written plus 4.9t squared and plus 4.9t squared? Yes. If you're going to write it all out, that's fine. Is everybody good? And the last one I want to make sure you can handle. Well, I lie, there's 3 more. How am I doing this? I need to solve this, yes? What does that phrase mean in a math room? It means isolate x. So, let's get her done. Yeah, sure. What's the furthest thing away from x that I must take care of? Here I am, Super Mr. Myers. I know the screen's blue. With my red cape, flying in to break x free. What's in my way? A square root. How do I get rid of a square root? I square it. If I do something to the right, what do I do to the other side? Same thing. A squared equals 2x plus 4. Now what? Move everything until what is by itself? X. While we wait for my incredibly high-end technology to come back, you will be isolating for x. Because by the time it's back, I will have x isolated. Done. Everybody good? Now, all of this algebra practice leads us to these 2 very easy questions. These 2 questions are the only math skill you need to do all of trigonometry. Okay? If you can solve these 2 algebra equations that are one-step equations, then you can do trig. How do I solve this? I have to multiply both sides by 4. What happens to these 2 4s? They cancel. X is now alone. 23 times 4 is 92. Right? Okay. Come over to this one. X is not in an appropriate spot because it is in a denominator. Is X the same as 1 over X? No. So I cannot have X in a denominator. So I got to get rid of it. How do I move something out? I multiply by X. Now what's going to happen to those two X's? They're going to cancel, and I've got 60. What do I have to do to this side? Multiply by X, and I have 5X equals 60. Then I divide by 5, and X equals 12. Please notice the shortcut. It is one of the most handy shortcuts you will need. Please notice it. If the number's on the bottom, what did I do? I multiplied. If the letter's on the bottom, what did I do? 60 divided by 5 to get my final answer. Get to the point where you see this immediately as 60 divided by 5 equals X. And you see this immediately as 23 times 4 equals X. I can't leave that 2 there. It was too embarrassing. Too embarrassing. It was so embarrassing, it was 3 embarrassing. All right? Now listen to me carefully. I do not want to explain this 1,000 times. The next page begins a review. This is an assignment, which means it will be marked. It will be marked on Monday at the end of class. It takes about 25 minutes to mark it. So make sure you do enough over the weekend that you are left with enough work to get you through about 55 minutes of class time Monday. Clear? Now, listen to me. Every single conversion on the front of that page is doable, even though you do not have the exact units on your sheet. Just like when we talked about turning, I know what happened, just like when we talked about turning centimeters to kilometers. That's not on your sheet, but you were able to figure it out. There are also measurements on this question that are not on your sheet, but they are metric. So do you know how to work it? Yes, of course you do, because you all remember that in the metric system, what is the important part? Is it the kg? Which is the important part in metric? The K. This means 1,000 grams or G's. So what if I had a KX? What would that mean? 1,000 X's. What if I had a KQ? That would be 1,000 quetzals, which isn't a real thing. It doesn't matter. This is what's important. It doesn't matter what the unit is. Okay? Also, on that review, if you look at the questions, they tell you what I want you to find. Some are surface area, some are volume, some are both. Also, please read this. If you spend your whole time trying to earn yourself 10 gummy bears, you will get 0 out of 35 on this. But you will have 10 cents worth of candy. If you value 10 gummy bears more than you value 30 marks, by all means spend all your time on that question. The only way to get those 10 gummy bears is to stand at the board without your sheet and be able to do that question. Because I am well aware you can all go home and Google it and find me an answer. Which is what a great many of you are going to do, thinking you will fool me. I am smarter than you. Now, if you go home, Google it, spend an hour memorizing how to do it so you can come up to the board and do it, who wins? Me, because you just spent an hour learning math to get 10 gummy bears. Way to go. All right? Now, since it's bonus, can you completely ignore it? Yes. But if you get this whole review done and you figure that out, you are just about guaranteed an A++ for this unit. Because that question is kick you in the gluteus maximus difficult. Okay? Go.